What's up, my brothers and sisters? Welcome to the Fireground Fitness Podcast, where we talk about all things pertaining to life on and off the fireground. The views and the opinions are those of your host and our guest. Today, we're sitting down with Mike O'Neill. Fantastic dude, former Marine. I will leave it at that. Take a listen and enjoy. Do me a favor. Give me like a, I don't know, name, rank, serial number, and
rank, serial number.
I'm going to just adjust your audio levels here.
Okay. Mike O'Neill, Battalion Chief, OM4042, Oscar Mike.
Yes. Okay. I have to tell you a story about Oscar Mike. So Oscar Mike is one of my favorite Marine Corps expressions.
Oh, you saw my license plate, right?
Does it say Oscar Mike on it?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I mean, for you, it's Mike O'Neill. Like, it's way closer to home. But for me, it just takes me back to my days. Marine Corps, okay? We go to a family function over Thanksgiving, and one of my young nieces is dating a Marine.
Good boy.
Yeah, he's out. He's out now. But she thinks it's all fun and games, and she's like, I'm going to use that expression. So she comes in and she tells him, I'm Oscar Mike. And he's like, what are you saying? Exactly my thoughts, exactly. I go, what do you say? So she tells me this. She goes, yeah. He says, so she explains to him, well, this is what my uncle says. I mean, it's what it means. And he's like, oh, that's old Marine Corps stuff.
Yeah, you're
that's
right.
That's what the old guys say. That's what the old guys say. And I go, well, what do the new guys say? Well, they say we're en route.
Dumb.
I'm like, dude, that's way too literal. That's stupid.
The purpose of Oscar Mike is so they don't know you're en route.
Yeah, if you get on the radio and say, I'm en route.
Yeah, we're moving.
Now the enemy knows you're en route.
Yeah.
Dumb. No, I mean.
What was his MOS?
He's a grunt.
Oh, man.
I know. Times have changed.
You just come in here and tear my soul out like that at my own property? No, that's what we said. Oscar Mike. We're Oscar Mike. And that's where it came from for me. And then I don't go to Sedona and, play with crystals or anything, but like the numbers sometime. And, you get your RMS number and it's OM4042. And I'm like, okay, OM, Oscar Mike. Well, my saw gunner, his name was Oscar and I was Mike. And
Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, no, and then 4042, Pat Tillman's pro number in college. Like, dude, just nerd out.
Yeah, you're drawing some deep threads there,
dude.
Connecting all the lines.
Everything
in the
happens for a reason, dude.
I love it.
Just like this.
I love it. Well, hey, so speaking of which, thank you you're one of my favorite people on the planet.
Oh, stop it, dude.
Thank you for sitting down and podcasting with me. And,
dude, this is the pleasure and honor is all mine, man. Like, I've been following you for a long time and listening to this stuff, and you're one of the guys that gets it. So, dude, it's awesome, dude.
Well, thanks for being here.
You've been one of my mentors and role models over the years, and with the special operations and everything. So I know I can always call you when I got a question, and so all.
We'll have to talk about your life choices. So, hey, thank you for doing this, as I already said. And it's always a pleasure to sit down with a former Marine. So many times I've sat down with so many other service members, and it just doesn't feel right, man. It's just not right.
Yeah, that's why they get Veterans Day. We get the Marine Corps birthday, they get Veterans Day.
That's right. Right. They are very close together, and people often convolute those things. Is not right.
Yeah. No.
Not okay.
Get it right.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a minute. So you were where did you serve exactly?
So straight out of School of Infantry, I went to 1st Light Armored Reconnaissance, was an LAV scout, Camp Pendleton.
You a Hollywood Marine to begin with?
Oh yeah, definitely a Hollywood Marine. Bugs on the East Coast don't fit well with me.
Not interested.
No. Sand fleas. No, I'm out.
My favorite memory coming out of San Diego was standing on the quarterdeck and watching the planes come in and planes leave.
Oh yeah.
And I was a short bus ride from my house, hour, 2 hours up the highway. But for some of these kids, like they were watching, their plane home.
Oh yeah,
flying out. You could hear them, landing and taking off. And
dude, it's psychological warfare watching those planes land and take off every single day, all night, dude. It's tough, man.
What was your favorite memory, or what was the thing that surprised you most in boot camp?
Man, like there was dudes that I was really fortunate. I joined the delayed entry program in, October, my senior year in high school. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew where I wanted to go. I was going to be a lifer. So for me, I was prepared. We went to the recruiter's office once a week. We did PT. We did knowledge. We did all kinds of stuff like that. So I was really prepared. And it was seeing some other people who showed up not as prepared. Mm-hmm. And I was like, dude, what did you think where did you think you were coming to, man? Like,
right.
But it was intense, man. I loved it, man. And meeting people from all over the country and the different cultures and backgrounds and expectations. And I was thinking about it. I still remember all four of my drill instructors, senior drill instructor, Sergeant Fernandez, drill instructor, Sergeant Shamimi, drill instructor, Sergeant Griffin, drill instructor, Sergeant Moss, those four dudes. Like, that's where I grew up,
they clearly left a mark.
Oh, dude, definitely. Yeah. Like, they're hardcore role models.
Yeah. It's really interesting. There's one particular drill instructor whose name I don't remember, but I specifically remember the night he spent with us. So he was sent to spend, I guess he was given the other drill instructors the night off. I have no idea how that stuff works, but he was a guest for the evening. And he made it his mission to just destroy us that night, right? He was in for the evening. He had tattoos on his neck. Like, he was just different. Yeah. And he was a shorter little guy. And do you remember before you go to bed, you're laying in your bunk at the position of attention?
Oh, yeah.
And they go, Protestant lay reader, and one of the kids who's designated to be, say a prayer for all the Protestants. Yep. And they do the same thing with the Catholics. Yep. Right? And then he goes, satanic lay reader. And the room is silent. The whole dorm is silent. And he goes, we don't have a satanic lay reader in here. Get out of here, bunks. And he gets us up and just PTs us for 30 minutes and then puts us back to bed.
Oh, dude, all sweaty. Yeah, no. Definitely been there. And you're like, and people don't understand. You're like, you don't just go to bed.
Right.
You're told, and you're laying at attention on top of the sheets or and you're so worn out, you fall asleep while they're talking.
Right.
But yeah, no, it's
those are funny little details, right? You get in you go to your edge of your bed, and they like prepare to mount. Yeah. And then you mount your rack, and then everyone jumps into their bed and lies there on top of the sheets.
Yeah, 70 dudes in their underwear, just looking at each other, and it's the most unique experience that you'll ever go through in your entire life. Yeah, and like that's where that esprit de corps, that brotherhood, that Semper Fidelis comes from.
So to get to that point, though, what's really interesting to me is and this is par for the course, right? This is the process. That first month is called the forming phase. Mm-hmm. And during that phase, right, they are stripping away your humanity for all intents and purposes, right? But they're stripping away all the things that you thought were your previously important. And then building you back up and instilling in you the esprit de corps and the teamness of the Marine Corps, and that's a really fascinating process. And I think about that in terms of the fire department. We don't have a process like that where we really get to strip people away from the BS, because in one hand we want them to bring all those skills with them. Yeah. Right? Bring their uniqueness and their skill sets and their talents. And I think the Marine Corps wants that as well, but they want unified. Mm-hmm. And so that's a question. How do you get that?
I think, it starts with leadership, whether it be formal or informal, that guy who brings everybody together, that guy who sells the message, who isn't hiding, who isn't trying to do their own thing. for me, that at the fire department, it happens at the dining room table, right? Mm-hmm. Or the back of the bay, like just telling stories or creating opportunities and creating questions and going, well, hey, well, what would you do? You know, instead of, they don't always want to hear what I'm going to do. They don't want to lecture or something like that. And then you start telling stories, and you might have heard the story for the 100th time, but it gets funnier and funnier and funnier. It gets better and better, and you learn from those different things. You know, like, oh, I never noticed that in that movie, you know, because you watch it a second or third time. But that esprit de corps, like in the fire service, is just learning about the traditions and telling, you know, there's guys in our organization that don't know who certain people are because they've been retired for 5, 10, 15 years. I just saw one of my retired captains we were grabbing something to eat the other day, and his name's Armando Hernandez, and he retired, and he's been retired 10 years. And it was like, hey, we just picked up right where we left off, you know, like, hey, Armando, like, how you doing, buddy? Like, and you got to tell those stories about those guys because it's important. You know, it's the legacy and the traditions, and hey, you know why we do this? You know why we do that? Like this because this guy started it. You know, this and that, and you know, just knowing the facts and that there's the lifeblood of the fire department are the people. Yeah. Right. And those experiences that we have, and you know, the team dynamic of an engine company or a ladder company or a firehouse is often the busier they are, the more, you know, crazy crap they get into, the tighter the unit. Yep. Because when you experience difficulty together, it bonds. Yeah. Right. Which I think is kind of what happens in Marine Corps boot camp. Mm-hmm. You go through hell for a period of time, and then you get brought in together and raised up together. And at the end of that, you are one unified machine. And I think about in terms of like, think about marching across the quarterdeck. Yeah. Right. Or not the quarterdeck, but the parade ground. Parade deck. Yeah. Yeah. And you're out there marching. And when you think about like boots in the very beginning, they're like a mob, literally a mob. Yeah. And I think I remember a drill instructor once saying, hippity hop, mob stop, instead of saying like, you know, giving proper marching orders. Yeah. And so, but then that same group of young people at the end of boot camp are freaking precision movement. And that is that, you know, that unity that comes with that. And so you talk about the esprit de corps in the firehouse, it's those men and women who have come together and trained together and talk about the unity of the mission, right? Why are we here doing what we're doing, right? And then you talk about you brought up the men and women who've come before us. Man, it's so important, right? To talk about where we came from. Oh yeah, no, absolutely, man. I mean, I don't know how far back you want to go, but like I
want to go all the way back.
All the way back. Like I thought you had to have an uncle or a dad or some, you know, a brother on the fire department to become a fireman. So I never even, that's cool. I'd like to try it out, but it wasn't a possibility.
How old were you when you figured it out that you could become a firefighter?
Shortly after I got out of the Marine Corps, so I was like 23.
Oh, okay. So you didn't wait too long.
No, dude. I've always been that guy to have a plan. Like, you know, and my dad told me when I was young, he goes, because he would complain about the kids at his job, and he worked at Nabisco for 36 years, and he's like, never called out sick. And he's like, Mike, after high school, you work the rest of your life. You know, find a kid. Truth. He's like, dude, here, preach. You can call out sick all you want, but the job's still going to be there, right? And so, and if you're sick, you ain't getting paid. So he's like, find a good union job, find a career. So I thought about being a teacher, being a cop, and kind of had that always in the background. But then, you know, I was at a buddy's house. I was still on like terminal leave out of the Marine Corps.
Oh yeah, check.
And I bump into a guy from high school.
Sorry, not to cut your story off, but how many years did you do?
I just did 4.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought I was going to be a lifer, but I had a girlfriend at Arizona State.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. No, and all my buddies were getting out because it wasn't cool to stay in. And, you know, I was just still young and impressionable. And
What years were you in?
92 to 96.
Okay. So we actually overlapped. I was in 90 to 94.
Yeah. Good times, man. Like I missed Desert Storm. but sat off the coast of Somalia and went on float and did a bunch of different stuff, and it was great, dude. I did it was probably some of the best years of my life, dude. Just hanging and reconnecting with those guys later in life and telling those stories is the best. But that was my fraternity.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't get that college experience. That was my fraternity.
That makes sense.
The Marine Corps.
Totally.
The hanging out on the weekends and hanging out at the E Club and drinking $2 pitchers and just good times. But so when I got out of the Marine Corps, I'm at a buddy's house, and he was dabbling into the fire department. But then I met a guy who was on the job, and he was working for a rural metro out in Litchfield Park. And he goes, "Hey, come do a ride along." I'm like, all right, I'll go check it out. Dude, sounds cool. And I don't know anything, dude. I show up, I sit on the couch, and I watch TV for like 8 hours while they're cleaning and working, and no calls. I just didn't know, dude. I didn't know the booter routine or anything like that. And to be honest, I was a little arrogant, dude. I was a Marine, right? Like, yeah. Dude.
Infantryman, no less.
Yes, exactly, dude. Like, my shit did not stink. So, evening time's rolling around. It's 4 or 5 o'clock, and I'm like, "Hey, bro, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I got to get home. I got to do some real stuff. Like, this was not what I expected, man. Like,
did you run any calls?
Not at the time, but then the tones kick out.
Oh, as you're about to leave?
As I'm about to leave, the tones kick out. He's like, "Hey, we got a call. You want to go?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." Get on the truck, and it's like an international cab. We're all facing forward, and I'm in the back seat in the middle, and I'm like, "All right, dude, we're talking tactics. All those patrol order Marine stuff is in my mind." I put the headsets on. Truck starts, and they got Alice in Chains blasting on the stereo. We're going code 3 to a 962 over like 99th Avenue and Camelback, and they're just laughing and joking and talking about people they're driving by, and I'm like, "Dude, where do I sign up, man?" Like, this is awesome, dude. Like, it's embedded in my memory. And so he goes, "All right, man." I go, "What do I got to do?" He's like, "You got to go down to the community college. You got to talk to this guy. You got to get your EMT. You got to doom.
And next time you come back, I expect a thing of ice cream, and I expect you to be putting in some work.
So fast forward, right? Like, he was a good guy. I think he was, he was a better friend than a mentor. But Mike Moore from Peoria, I had met him before, and I reached out to him because I think his son and my brother played football together or something. And I reached out to him, and he hooks me up with a guy named Lon Etter, who ended up going over to Mesa Fire. But this dude took me under his wing and gave me all of his Fire 1 and 2 books, gave me fire gloves, gave me books, he goes, "Dude, here's how you be a booter. Here's how you do your ride-alongs. Here's how you do." He gave me the map, and that was really early on in my interest in becoming a fireman. It's like, don't sit in the recliner, put your back to the TV, carry the bottle, like all that stuff. I'm like, oh my God, dude, those guys on my first ride-along thought I was an idiot, probably, but I didn't know any better. And so I'll never forget Lon Etter. I owe everything, getting hired early. I owe so much to that guy. And, he pointed me in the right direction and got me started. And something I'll never forget, he gives me a union sticker, a brand new union sticker. He goes, "Hey, this is a little tradition." He goes, "Do not put this on your car till you graduate the academy." He goes, "This is for good luck." And I put it right in my speedometer. So it was my motivation, man. That Maltese, I want to get hired so I can put that on my car, But it was just because he just told me the story about the history of the Maltese and everything, and I could call him, and he was a good dude, man. And then I signed up for EMT out at Mesa Community College.
Were you living out on the east side of town at that time?
Yeah, I moved out there. I grew up on the west side. Family's on the west side, but like I said, that girl at Arizona State. So I go to MCC, and I got Adam Hellman. He's my EMT instructor. Like, these dudes, man, I was so lucky. I had the best mentors. Adam Hellman, he was a captain for Gilbert Fire Department, paramedic, and I'm like, okay. He goes, "Hey, no ride-alongs until after class." But I learned the EMT, and I go do a ride along on, I believe it was their ladder. It was by the train tracks. But it was such a great time. Like, he was the captain. I just wanted to be like that dude, man. He was so cool, so laid back, so professional. Just one of those dudes that he gets it, you know. And so I met a lot of people out there, and took my 1 and 2 out there with Don Yona and Mike Shamanan. Like, when I tell people who my mentors and people I get peppered this, I'm like, okay, we understand the way you are, why you are, you know, like, okay, you had Mike Shamanan and Don Yona as your 1 and 2 instructors. Like, yeah, no, it's crazy, you know. But those dudes, they also were like, hey, the fire department's tough. You need to be tough, you know.
Right.
And this is how it is, you know. And like, you know, here's the unwritten rules, you know. Anybody can learn the policies and procedures and the general order, but those unwritten rules, dude, that the fire department has, like,
you know, it's funny you bring that part up, because the unwritten rules, the culture of any organization is so important to being successful. And people are always like, the politics. The politics are the people and the navigating of the unwritten rules, the unspoken, the unseen, the undone, right? How do you navigate that? And until you have somebody who takes you under their wing and says, hey, I'm going to coach you up, how would you know?
Yeah, and like, politics is just life, and I didn't learn that until I had 20 years on the job. I learned the engine company politics, the fire department, you know, stuff, the operational politics early on, you know, but the management, those politics, it took me a while to get a grasp of that. You know, kind of a late bloomer on that side, but I had some good mentors teach me that stuff later, pull me aside and go, hey, if this is what you want to do, this is what you got to do. Right. You know? Yeah.
It's funny. I had a guy one day tell me, he's like, you know, I should be able to promote from the back seat of a fire truck. And I'm like, hey, there's a little bit of politics that go into that. Like, people need to know who you are in order to invest in you, right? And just because you are a great firefighter doesn't mean you're going to be a great company officer, chief officer, whatever. Like, those are things you have to demonstrate in other ways.
Yeah.
You got to go to classes. You got to show up. You got to teach. You got to be visible in the organization.
It's so weird. I've had that conversation with a couple of people, you know, like, just thinking about the chief ranks and the company officer ranks. Like, no one ever looks at a guy and goes, man, dude, you see how fast he threw his air pack? He's going to be a great fire chief. You know, like, right. No one, oh man, that guy gets me a full 2 sets of vitals every single call. He's going to be a great leader in this organization, right? And it's those people that we do think about that are going to be great leaders. It's how they talk, how they carry themselves, how they handle certain situations. You know, like, they're completely unrelated to the operations.
It's diplomacy.
Yeah.
It's leadership, which is integrity, and it's getting in front of a class and teaching. And what does that look like? And you know, are they able to teach tough topics and talk about difficult situations? That's a good point, man.
Yeah, no, and I had Tim Wayne from Goodyear Fire. He was one of my early mentors in Glendale, and he pulled me aside. I was working on my acting captain packet, and he just pulled me aside. He's like, and I've tried to pass this on to as many future leaders as possible. It's like, he asked me the simplest question: what's more important, loyalty or integrity? Well, being that operational thinker and knowing, I'm like, and being a Marine, and I was like, oh man, I never thought about it or broke it down or defined it, and I was like, well, loyalty is important, man. Being loyal to your organization and your crew and your people, right, and your family. He's like, okay. He goes, can you be loyal to a fault? I was like, oh shit, like, yeah. And he goes, your integrity is who you are, and your integrity is what you do when no one, you know, the whole, and that will bring out loyalty. And so from there on, I was like, okay, integrity. be truthful to yourself, be honest, because there are some people that will lead you down the wrong path, that'll lead you down, and you can drink that Kool-Aid and think you're doing the right thing, and then they're going to call out that loyalty, and you got doing what's right. Your integrity might not line up with that loyalty piece sometimes.
Right.
So
well, and if a friend is loyal to you, they will not put you in a position to compromise your integrity.
Yeah.
And that is something that people seem to forget. The guy's like, hey man, what's that video, that movie, and the guy's like, hey man, we're going to go out, we're going to do some things, we're going to hurt some people, and you can never ask me about it.
Oh yeah, that Ben Affleck, the brother. Yeah.
And he goes, whose car are we taking?
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's loyalty.
Yeah.
To a fault.
Yeah.
Right? It's a great movie quote.
Yeah.
But in real life,
yeah.
You have those friends who will back you, but it has to be, if you live in integrity, when they're backing you, they're usually backing you in integrity, or they will hold you accountable and go, hey man, are you sure that this is the right thing you want to be doing? Because they know what you want, and they're there to support you in that, to hold you in integrity.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we work for the fire department, not the mafia, and it's like,
hey, whoa,
yeah, dude, like we took an oath, right?
Yeah.
We are public servants, and we have there's a certain expectation of us, and I just remember going back to that testing process. Hey, can I trust you to go into a stranger's house who has prescription medications, who has wallets with money and has valuables, and you got to have that trust, and that trust comes with your integrity, and it's just it's doing the right thing. And
so, how long have you been on the job now?
So I've got 15 in Glendale, and then I did 9 in Sun City.
You did 9 in Sun City?
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't realize it was that long.
Yeah, I was crusty over there. No. Yeah.
So let me ask you this: what is something? So now you're a battalion chief.
Yeah. No big
We'll
deal.
talk about that. So, as a firefighter, what's something that and you had to boot twice, all right? Start all over. What are some of the foundational things that you learned in the back seat that have defined your career for you?
So even going back before Sun City, I did like Black Canyon Volunteer. I did a year in Gila River, and like that year in Gila River kind of taught me what the fire department was about, right? The name on the back's bigger than the name on the front. The cultures, the differences, the community service, being part of a team. And then when I went to Sun City, that's where I really learned how to be a firefighter, and checking off the rig, going to school, taking classes, being involved, being engaged in the community, pounding signs, doing charities, doing more on my days off than my days on, basically, just being part of that community. But I think the things that molded me as a firefighter are just, man, that's a good question. It's just being ready, being professional, and not trying to take things for granted. I've never been that guy that just shows up, puts his gear on the truck, and waits for the light bar to come on. I want to know what everybody's role on the truck is, and that maybe that goes back to those fire team days, in the Marine Corps, of going, hey man, if my team leader goes down, someone's got to step up. My saw gunner goes down, somebody's got to step up. If my radio man goes down, somebody's got to step up, right? Yeah. So as a firefighter, if I can understand the roles and responsibilities of my engineer and my captain, I can make their job a little bit easier. Or as an EMT, I can understand what my medic's thinking. And I was a booter, and my first crew was Captain Gobster, engineer was Jim Hayner, and the firefighter was Jamie Soto. And these dudes had salt, man. Jamie Soto had 10 years on the job. Jim Hayner had 15. And Captain Gobster, he goes, he looks at me, he's like, when were you born? And I'm like, 1974. And he goes, what month? And this guy, he's like, I came on right after you were born. I'm like, oh my gosh, dude. And so I just always respected those guys, and I never wanted them to, I didn't want to let them down, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I had all kinds of salty old rural metro guys that stuck with the organization. I mean, they were rural metro firefighters working one day on, one day off, and then lived in Peoria as volunteer firemen. So they were firemen 24/7.
Right.
And they took pride, and I remember those guys taking me under their wing and, hey, you know, this is what you got to do. I still wash, you know, when I help the guys wash the truck, I wash under the wheel well, because that's what Jim Hayner did, right? And, you know, hey, you're not a medic, but start reading the drugs. You want to be a medic? Start reading start checking off the drug box. But so I just took a lot of classes. I wanted to learn their job and learn their roles and responsibilities and kind of have an understanding of what was going on the fire ground.
Yeah.
What was going on? Why are we doing this? Why are we going to this hospital versus that hospital? Why are we starting IVs on this patient but not that patient? Why are we pulling this line versus that line? Just little things like that. You know, why are we saying this when we're doing that? You know, and so I've always treated my career kind of like my gear, being a ready state. And then when it comes time for promotional process or say a position to put in for, I've got the qualifications, I've got the ticket, I've got everything. All I'm waiting for is the time to do it. And that's kind of what, as a firefighter, just being prepared, you know.
Yeah. I love that, man. And I think the cross-training component of that is so important. You know, 2 is 1, 1 is none, right? You never know when something's going to happen on that apparatus and somebody's going to need to step in for somebody else. That's just, you know, what if you're, you know, somebody's stuck on the shitter.
Yeah.
And they just are having a medical emergency in there and they can't get off of it, right?
Yeah.
And you got to run a call, and now all of a sudden you're the chauffeur of the truck, and if you've never done it before. And a story creeps into my mind. I pulled into a station one day, I got roved in, and me and the other backseat firefighter and the engineer was off on a partial vacation for a period of time. And the captain was a firefighter acting out of class. He was on the list. He was going to get promoted someday, right? A bunch of ding-dongs, right? And the acting captain goes, hey, can one of you guys drive? And I'm like, sure. I go, if we can go let's go run over the pump panel real quick, because I'm not super familiar with this rig. And the other kid looks at me and goes, psh, I got it.
Good boy.
And I'm like, all right, sweet. So I jump up in the back seat, get all set up for the day. 30 minutes later, we get dispatched on a garbage truck fire. And this garbage truck had dumped its load in a parking lot. There's just a pile of debris on fire.
Career fire right there.
Bro, I'm telling you. And so I stretch out the line, and I get to the end of the line, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting, and I'm waiting. And I look back down the line, and there's 2 dum-dums standing at the pump panel, scratching their heads. And I was freaking furious. Not furious because I didn't have water to put the garbage truck fire out. I was furious because had this been a house fire and somebody's life was hanging in the balance, and that, I'm going to use some strong language here, that asshole said, I got it. Mm-hmm. Do not let your ego get in the way of somebody's life safety, right? If you don't got it, say I don't got it, and we'll figure it out together. But don't come to me and say I got it and not have your hands wrapped around it. It's not okay. And so the cross-training piece is super important, right?
Yeah, you're going to the hospital to pick up the medic, and a worker kicks out, a gunshot, anything kicks out. Like, I get it. If you don't want to promote, that's fine. You can ride backwards your entire career. I'm totally cool with that.
Right.
But that doesn't give you a free pass to stop learning, right?
Right.
Because protocols change, algorithms change, society change. Like, you need to be engaged, because the community doesn't know whether it's your first day on the job or your last day on the job.
And they don't care.
No. And you can make $1 million on the baseball field being good 30% of the time, but you got to bat 1,000 on the fire department for, a fraction of the dollar too. But they expect the best. And I know it sounds cliche, but just be prepared. We don't get to pick and choose what the light bars,
Here's what's interesting about that, right? Is in the history of my career, there's never been one incident that was perfect, right? No. Something always goes wrong. And so the ability to adjust is predicated upon training. Because if you don't train and you're like, hey, it always goes this way, well, 100% doesn't always go this way, right? There's two things in the fire service that you can't say: always and never, right? There's too many variables. Things are the only time you can say it is right now. Yeah. It is always going to change, right? It is never the same. Those are the only absolutes.
Yeah, no, there's going to be more. I promise you, there's going to be that morning at that shift change call. It's a code and the O2 bottle's empty.
Yeah,
that's not new, But act like you've been there before. Don't freak out. Like just, you know what I'm saying? Hey, Cap, I got to go to the truck and get the other O2 bottle. Mm-hmm. Go do it.
Yeah.
Just don't freak out, but have a plan. Be prepared and.
So let me ask you this then. So what is your technique, or how did you learn, or whatever, to stay calm? I'm going to throw some air quotes up here. Under fire, right? When shit goes sideways, how do you stay cool?
Well, like you said, you fall on your training, and like, how do I stay cool? Hey man, I this is going to probably sound bad, but I've learned to lower my expectations.
Well, you should say more.
And what I mean by that is, hey man, if I pull into the station at 7:20, 7:30 in the morning, and our frontline truck is there, it's going to be a great day. Right? Like, hey, because it's the fire service, man, and trucks break down, equipment goes bad, guys have bad days, guys forget to do stuff. We're busy, man. So like, hey, don't freak out. Freaking out doesn't help anything. I coached my kids' sports, and I would just laugh at the coaches that would freak out during the games, but didn't do anything but play grab ass, and joke around during practice. Like, dude, no, training is going to be intense. Practice is going to be intense. And when we mess up at the game, we're going to take notes. We'll critique it, like, out of fire. What do they say? Praise in public and
correct in private.
Yeah, that whole thing, So it's like, you just act like you've been there before.
You know what's funny? I agree with that statement. The praise in public piece.
Yeah.
However, I do feel like we take that a little too far sometimes, particularly tailboard critiques.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I think that there needs to be a degree, and this is a cultural thing, right?
Yeah.
We as firefighters need to get comfortable talking about how things didn't go right.
Yeah.
In front of everybody else, and saying, hey, here's what I saw, and here's what I missed. 20 minutes ago when we pulled up on this incident, this was happening, and I missed it.
Yeah, no, we're outside high-fiving in front of a foundation, and the fire investigator's like, why'd you even call me, but Dave Jensen, right? Mm-hmm. So he is my best friend, my mentor, and that's part of his captain development, battalion chief development is we'll do tactics, and then after our tactics are done in the station or at the grinder, wherever we're doing, part of that process is giving a tailboard critique. And he has a template, and it's, if you saw anything negative, we're going to go pull the company officer aside and address it, but then we're going to give him that opportunity in front of everybody. Go, hey, is there anything different you would have done? It's like, how you got to have that tact, right?
Yeah.
JJ did tie buckle, right?
Wait, what's that?
JJ, the Marine Corps leadership traits.
Oh, right, Roger.
Now I'm an old Marine, right?
Yeah. We say it differently.
Yeah. So you got to have tact, because you don't want to embarrass your guys or girls.
So that's the thing though too, is right. It's not about, you don't call them out and go, hey, so that was a screwed up operation.
Yeah.
But you say, hey, what's one thing that you would do differently, and two things that went well for you.
Yeah.
And let them unpack it a little bit, and have an honesty and say, hey, and you can even open that up as the person leading the critique and go, hey, when I pulled up on scene, I thought this was what was happening, and I misread the fire, or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Or I hit the push to talk button, and I paused, and I held open air and sat there thinking. just own some of the things that didn't go smooth, and then say, all right, well, what didn't go smooth for you? And let people talk that stuff out a little bit, because 100% guaranteed, everybody standing in that circle knows that something went sideways. They know about it. So let's talk about it, and let's offer some ideas and perspectives and things we can do to correct it.
And there's going to be those calls where,
sure,
hey man, everybody over here now. What the hell? You know?
Right.
But I think you can learn from every fire, and just, because we just don't get enough of them. I just feel like we don't get enough fires. And then having that opportunity as a battalion chief, I remember being a young acting captain, and the chief would show up and go, "Hey, why'd you do that?" And I would, being the young arrogant kid, like, I know what I'm doing. Why are you get out of here? I was like, I figured out, oh, he's asking me that because he wasn't here, and he just wants to know my decision making process. And so that's what I try to explain to my guys. I go, hey, when I show up, it's because I'm hearing this on the radio and I'm seeing this, and hey, what were your critical fireground factors? Justify your chart to me. And I compare it to paramedicine. Like, when you write a chart, you're justifying whether it's a refusal, whether it's ALS, or whether it's BLS, like those pertinent negatives, those pertinent positives. That's all I'm asking. What was your SDM? What was your IAP? What were your critical fireground factors? Why did you pull an 1 3/4? Why did you go offensive? Just help me understand. Paint this picture. Because when I got here, you had 3 assignments and the fire was out. Great job.
Right. Well, or you saw a giant header of smoke, and they were going offensive, and you're like, the conditions don't appear to match the actions I'm hearing over the radio. So when you say, hey, tell me a little bit about your decision making, it's not an indictment.
No.
It's clarification. What did you see that led you to that decision? Oh man, we had a guy hanging out the window. We had to effect rescue.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So you stretched a pre-connected hand line and got water on the fire between the victim and the fire as quickly as you could. Yeah. Bravo.
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to put myself in your position. You know? It's not a test.
Yeah.
And I don't, there's so much stuff going on in the fire service with learning and the GPMs versus BTUs and just the slicers and stuff that we didn't learn when we were in our early part of our career, the whole attack from the unburned portion, the whole don't spray into the smoke because the thermal layer, all that, it was based on theory. Now we've added actual science to it, and we're like, oh wait, we just need to put the water on the fire,
right, as quickly as possible. Or even into the hot gases, frankly.
Yep.
Contract the gases. Let's start to change the environment, cool the environment. That it's really kind of it's fascinating to me. Like in the world of science, right? Evidence-based practices are everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. And in our business, you have practical experience commingled with science, and it's getting the two to come together, and then affecting change, right? Because firemen struggle with that, right? We like to do things the way we like to do things, and just because some propeller head said, "Hey, we have evidence," you better show me.
No, we had 5 years ago or whatever it was, I was the training captain, and we were introducing the smoothbore 2.5 tactics that Brian Brush does, and got it from Chris Slayer, and we were just, man, it was like so much information. It was great, and we're out teaching it, and we're changing our pre-connect. We're just changing some things up, and I went out to every single station, every single shift, showed them how to load this Minuteman load, showed them how to deploy it, went over the holds. Went over everything, and everybody was really receptive to it. If you just talk to them like they're firemen, and you don't try to make it any more difficult than it has to be. Like, hey, but I did have some naysayers, and this guy, he straight up goes, "Yeah, that's cool, Mike, but if I get this order to pull this line tonight, I'm just gonna make a loop and sit on it like I was told in the academy." I was like, "All right, bud. Like 2 things real quick." I wish you would have just waited till I left to say that. I go, but secondly, when you were in the EMS division and you took bicarb out of our drug box, did I freak out and tell you, well, I got my own stockpile and I'm still going to push bicarb 10 minutes after a code? Or Like we change our EMS protocols on a daily basis and nobody bats an eyelash. But the second you change something that a firefighter learned in the academy 20 years ago,
right,
it's the end of the world.
Yeah. And I'm going to invoke Brunacini here. He said, if you're doing the same thing that you've always done for 20 years, you need to reconsider. He said it a little differently than that, but that's how I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
But that's the idea, that you have to reevaluate. And you bring up the really good point is we pivot on things like medical things, which are evidence-based. Well, we have evidence for these new techniques and tactics. Let's be smart. And people talk about, well, I got to be an aggressive firefighter, and et cetera, et cetera. I'm like, well, aggression only comes when you have all the KSAs in your head to be effective. But you have to size up aggressively. You have to deploy the line aggressively. You have to bring the right tool to the fight. Mm-hmm. That takes aggressive, thoughtful, deliberate decision-making. There's this little footage I saw of this firefighter. He jumps off the truck, and he does 3 laps looking for a tool. He was running his ass off, but because he had not prepared aggressively, he could not execute aggressively. He was moving with purpose, but he couldn't get where he needed to go.
Yeah, I like to picture that in black and white with Benny Hill music.
That's what it seems.
And they're opening the compartments, they're closing it, they're juggling.
That's what it sounded like. This freaking clown car.
Yeah,
and this poor guy, man, his helmet cam footage gave it all away, and I'm like, well, that's crappy.
Everybody knows where the EMS boxes are. Like that is when, and I was joking around with some guys, like when we design our fire trucks nowadays, everything's designed around the EMS compartment, hey, these come off. Like we got to start designing our fire trucks for firefighting and lower hose beds and quicker attacks, and just
that's ridiculous.
And it's just, well, and I get it, man. It's not a big percentage of our call volume, but it's probably the most dangerous, right?
So I think that you bring up a really, really good point. I was being snarky by saying that's ridiculous. It is a fire truck.
Yeah.
Now, we also do EMS delivery off of it, right? We provide EMS services off of it. So you bring up a really fascinating point, which is designing the trucks. Right now, if you don't have any input, they're designed by people who build fire trucks. Mm-hmm. So they are taking engineering into play, which is very, very important. Designing the truck to be good on the road and to run good, et cetera. But the cabinets and the hose beds, et cetera, we have an opportunity to impact that, and we need to take advantage of that and design trucks that function in our communities the way we need them to function.
Yeah, we've got, so when we started that 2.5 project, and then we implemented our new combination nozzles on our high-rise packs, we started, using that almost as our horizontal standpipe, going long off the 2.5. Hey, break it down, take our high-rise packs off. And one of our captains, Dave Colson, who's an RTO, like super involved in training. He's awesome, like super knowledgeable. He had our fabricators, our apparatus guy, our high-rise packs used to be like stuffed and laid flat and pushed back behind stuff. Like they were not
on the little shelving on the side of the truck kind of thing.
Yeah, right. And I don't know about your academy, but my academy, and I went to the Phoenix Fire Training Academy. Here's a high-rise pack. Here's how you load it.
Yeah.
You'll never use this again. Like there it is. And so like, we're starting to use this high-rise pack now. We're starting to do some stuff, some different loads, some Minuteman stuff, and he had our fabricators come in, build these pegs. So now the high-rise packs hang nice and they're purposeful. And when at 2:00 in the morning, when you open this compartment, boom, they're there and you go. It's not pull stuff out, try and find them, and just keep pulling pre-connect after pre-connect after pre-connect. It's having a plan. And so now all of our apparatus have that. It's like, hey, here's where our high-rise packs are. They're go-to. They're fast.
Nice. That's important, man. We talk about the station design and these different types of things, and apparatus design is really important to think about how is the equipment going to go on and how is it going to come off in an urgent situation. That's critical. I love that. I love that you guys thought about that. That's huge.
Yeah, no, switching from pre-connects or dead loads to pre-connects, just for speed and efficiency, and you're just having the tools in the toolbox. And like, we all know how to pull 150, 200 foot cross lay, right? Butt to butt, swim, stab, grab. We all know. Yeah, we all know how to do that. And but there's 1,000 ways to skin a cat. Like there's other departments and organizations that are doing things differently, and I think like that's part of being a leader. Is having the humility to go, okay, I don't know everything. Let's open our eyes to this.
Yeah.
This method. What are they doing over here? And just constantly learning and going, okay, yeah, that's how I did it in the academy 20 years ago, because that's the foundation, but that's not the whole book, right? So.
Yeah. I'm hung up on that Bruno quote, man. You got to be open to change, and you got to be open to other people's ideas.
Yeah.
At least bring them to the table for conversation, and even in your own organization, even if you're not grabbing stuff from outside, in your own organization, there are a lot of intelligent people with great ideas. Mm-hmm. Let those ideas percolate through the organization. Don't just shut them down, right? You got to let that stuff come out and let people work through those things.
It's tough, man. I get it. Dude, and I love Bruno, man. I had the opportunity. He came to my fire academy, he sat down with us, and I just analyzed that guy, and why was he the way he was, and why did people respect him and listen to him? And I just go back to that initial class where as recruits, we had to write down all of our questions on a whiteboard before we got there, right? And he gets there, and he doesn't stand in front of a podium. He pulls out a chair, and he sits down at our level. And then he looks at the whiteboard, and he reads the question. And he just looks at us. He's like, you guys are the ones with the answers. Why do you think this? And then he would interject a little bit. Well, have you thought about this? But it was never a lecture or a dissertation from that guy, right? Mm. And he just told it how it was. He was be nice, do the right thing. It's just the fire department, and I've had a lot of chiefs over my career with his quotes and his books and all their stuff in their offices, but they're not living that Bruno mentality, right? Went to his leadership seminar as a firefighter. I was so lucky. Got to go to one of his seminars. I put in for it. I got to go. No one else wanted to go. I'm like, screw it. I'm sitting 5 feet away from Chief Brunacini, trying to learn. And all these chiefs from around the country are at this little round table. There's like 20 people in the room. And it never fails, man. Someone has a complaint about uniforms, and he tells that story, And look, there's a time to be polished, right? You're a Marine, and your uniform's never been dirtier, and you never worked harder. But then guess what? You show up to the Marine Corps ball, and you're dressed blues. Right. Shine to the nines, right? When, and sometimes that's where guys have a difficult time understanding. Like, hey, I don't have a problem with you walking around in PTs and doing this and working hard and getting dirty, but hey, man, when we're going down to admin or we're going to a training class, like, can you tuck your shirt in? Can you throw in some boots? Like,
right.
But that's Bruno is the best, dude.
What was the story that Bruno shared?
Well, just Mrs. Smith has never complained about the way a firefighter looks or what they were wearing. He's never in his 50 years in the fire service had a complaint about what a guy was wearing or how they looked. It was they showed up, they took care of me, they mowed my yard, they put my groceries away, they did the right thing, they got there fast, efficiently, they were in a big fire truck for highly trained professionals. Or the story, like you hear the story about him, giving a tour to some other fire chief, and the fire truck pulls over to the side of the road and picks up the little old lady and takes her home, and aren't you worried about the liabilities? Like, we just gave that little old lady a ride home. Like, she's going to tell that story to every single person she knows, right. Like the positives outweigh the negatives,
right.
So Bruno just broke it down to the most basic level.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something to be said for that, keep it simple attitude. And the dichotomy, though, and this is a tough thing for me, okay, the Marine to me, it's a long time about this, is I watched a guy get off a truck. Now, this was, shift change type situation. Everyone's in uniform. This guy's wearing a Mickey Mouse t-shirt.
Yeah.
And, I'm with you, man. Like, there's a time and a place for being spit and polished.
Yeah.
But, bro, you got to put on a uniform. Like, there's, if that person's coded and we're working a code, and I get it.
Yeah.
Mickey Mouse t-shirt, no one's going to notice necessarily, right? But we do have to show up reflecting some pride in the organization, reflecting pride in how we present ourselves.
Absolutely.
It's, and there's a line there. Do we need to stand up every morning and do, line out, exchanges in the morning and uniform inspections every single day? No.
There's fire departments around that are wearing our Class A's
right
on duty.
Right. Class B's.
Class B. Yeah. Class B. Yeah. I'm not the uniform guy.
Yeah.
I know I wear my uniform. I wear, like, got promoted to battalion chief. I threw away all my shorts. I'm like, all right, pant life. Here we go.
Oh, I feel bad for you.
But yeah, it's
so sad.
Yeah, I got nice legs, bud. All right. It's the city gives you money.
Right.
The city gives you money to wear a uniform. Yeah, and it's
and so here's the thing, man. I went on a call one day with a guy, and he lifts his arm up, and he's got a giant hole in his armpit of his shirt.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro,
yeah,
put on a clean shirt. Like, come on, man. Put on a shirt. Throw that damn thing away.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's one thing. You're out training. You're sweaty. You run a call, and you're a little bit sweaty. Whatever. You've been out all day long, and your shirt's covered in sweat stains because you've been getting after it. I totally get it. But it's that idea that it's to say it's not important at all. I just can't abide.
No, it's perception, right? Like that's, how you look and how you feel. And we all have that one guy, you're like, dude, come on, man.
Right.
Versus the occasional guy.
So that's the only danger with that statement was that when Bruno said, hey, man, Mrs. Smith, I've never got a complaint about someone being out of uniform. It just creates a bit of a slippery slope.
Absolutely.
And so I think it's smart to recognize that, hey, that is not the most important thing. The most important thing is how we show up for the person in a human way, right? Mm-hmm. Are we taking care of their problems? Are we maintaining our training and showing up with the right skills and executing well, documenting appropriately, fighting fire with fidelity and doing the job aggressively and smartly? That's the most important thing, right? If you're in the middle of working out and you catch a fire and you show up on the fire with your Mickey Mouse t-shirt on, that's not the end of the day. But if your skills were, if you perform poorly, it's problematic, man.
Oh yeah. No, I totally get it. And sometimes it's we talk out both sides of our mouths in the fire service.
Well, let me ask you this. So now that you're a chief officer and you're no longer on a truck, what has surprised you most about being a chief?
It's busier than I thought it would be.
In what way?
You go from the easiest thing we do is show up every third day and run calls on a fire truck. Hands down. Like, we train you to do that. We send you to schools to do that. We pay you to do that. And when you start putting in for programs and doing stuff on the side and, hey, you want to promote, like, the things get harder. And so as a chief officer now, you go from having 3 guys, 1 station and 1 truck to now I've got a battalion. I've got 5 stations, 6 crews. And I handle things at the captain level. I empower my captains. I believe that our captains are the backbone of our organization. I believe it's kind of gotten watered down a little bit as a company officer. I hated finding out information the same time that my booter did. I didn't want to feel like, sometimes I just felt like I was 25% of the truck. I'm like, dude, I'm a captain, man. Like,
I need to know some stuff.
Yeah, like, how about just a heads up,
Yeah.
And I'm pretty engaged, man. I check my emails on my days off. I'm involved, I do things. But so now as a chief, you're just like, I want to make sure my crews have the resources they need to be successful. I don't want to be a dead end. Kind of just now, I don't want to, as a firefighter, as an engineer, as a captain, you don't want to be a dead end on a call, right? You might not have all the answers for that patient or that citizen, but I can get you to the right place, right? I can find the resources. And so now as a battalion chief, I want to be that person for our crews, you know, whether it has to do with facilities or equipment or training or classes or whatever it is. I want to make sure my guys are set up for success. You know, I want to make sure they're in the loop. I want to make sure that they understand things, they know things, and I want to be an advocate for them. So, taking care of myself, you know, I if I want to get a workout in, I got to show up early. You know, I got to do it before work starts. Now, and that's the trade-off. Like I'm not waking up 4 times after midnight running chest pains and difficulty breathings. So I've got to do the other work, and making sure that my guys are taken care of. You know, if it's a high stress incident, hey, I want to make sure, like, hey, do you take your time, decon after a fire, decon after a call. Like, I got your back. Just keep me in the loop. But at the same time, I tell my guys, you know the policies and procedures, you know the general orders, you have an MCT, you have a computer at the fire station, you have telestaff, you have target solutions, you have all this stuff at your fingertips. You don't need to call me every single time that you want to do something. Be a leader. Own your first due. Take pride in it. Listen to your radio. But if you want to call me and you want to let me know that you want, go for it. But you don't call me 15 times a day to let me know you're going to unavailable hospital. So if you're just going to go lay some hose on the ground behind the grocery store in the parking lot or behind the station for a half hour, 45 minutes, go for it, man. Like, lead up. Do your thing, man. Make your crew listen to your radio and,
Yeah, deconflict with the captains around you and figure it out.
Yeah.
No, I love that, man. I think it's important that you're empowering your captains to make decisions like that. The company officer, in my opinion, is the pivot point in the organization.
Absolutely.
The fire chief can stand on top of the admin building and wave their fist, make stuff happen. But and the battalion chiefs can push it down.
Yeah.
But until the captain says that we will do, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, they are the trend. They're the pivot point where that information goes or no goes. So you have to create buy-in from your captains. So empowering them is critical because they're a critical part of the leadership team.
Yeah, no, and I was always trained, like, when you make captain, your helmet's a different color for a reason, right? Yeah. You got 1 foot in administration and 1 foot in operations. You're the conduit. You're the middleman. Yeah. If I give you a message that might not be popular with the guys, it ain't, hey, chief wants this. I don't agree with this, chief. Your job is to figure out how to get buy-in with your crew. I trust you. Don't throw me under the bus. I won't throw you under the bus. Captains are a huge piece in the success of our organization.
Oh, yeah.
We're pretty lucky in Glendale, man. We've got a pretty senior group of guys that get it, who've done it, that I can lay my head on. My battalion's pretty senior, so they got a lot of experience. They got a lot of knowledge. I rely on them heavily, because I don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we've got a young group of guys that are just crushing it, dude. They're like, they're awesome. They're so motivated. They're so excited. They're good leaders, man. I got complete faith in the future of our fire service and everything they're doing. And captain's a big deal, man.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this: when you lay down at night and you snuggle up with your poncho liner,
dude, you see my blanket? How'd you know?
I know you. I know you better than you think. What keeps you up? We know you're not running any calls, so.
I want us to be as good as we say we are. I have cuddled up in bed and stared at the ceiling and go, man, we haven't been to that place in a while. And I did this as a captain. I do it as a battalion chief. I go back and I throw my shirt on, I throw on my flip-flops, and I go out to the truck and I look at the map real quick. And our guys are money at work. Our guys are money at the station. They're money when the light bar goes off. They know what to do. They know I worry about our people on their days off. And I've had guys make some wrong decisions, or just they get to that fork in the road, and it's affected their career. And I've gotten bad phone calls and so I worry about our people, because life's tough, man. Society's tough. There's a lot of things going on. We're busier than ever, whether it be social media and keeping up with the Joneses, or just life in general, relationships, kids, bills, it's stressful. And then, but like I tell my guys, like, when we say use your time, we give you 20 days off a month. But we have so many guys that are burning the candle at both ends. And sometimes they're almost coming to work to rest. And it's, dude, if you're coming to the Glendale Fire Department to get rest, you got another thing coming, man. Like, we are a busy fire department. And it's not just running calls. It's staying engaged. It's doing community events. It's keeping up on, all the administrative duties. It's the truck checks. It's the training. We are a busy fire department. And they're dog years, dude. And you're going to be very, very experienced in a short period of time. So you got to do stuff on your days off, like work out, get sleep, get your stuff in order, be straight. So when you are away from home for 24 or 48 hours, things are easy, and that's, if you just keep your ducks in a row at home, life at work can be very, very easy. It can be your day off. It can be rest, but if you're stressed out at work, thinking about your stuff at home, it's a vicious cycle, man.
Right.
And
it's really you hear people say, you gotta leave all that drama at the door, right? Leave it at home.
And that's that easy.
It's not. No, it's an unrealistic statement. It's not possible. Human beings are wired to maintain that stuff in their head and to deal with it, and you don't get to just compartmentalize like that. You can try. It's not very healthy. So to your point, using your days off to decompress and to manage your personal business so that when you show up, you can be, in a ready state. Is critical. And it's a practice. I think it's not easy to do, right? Because things come up. You're on your way into work. You forgot to do something. Your wife calls you up and she, fusses at you because you didn't get some things done that you said you would get done. That's life, man. So.
And we got cell phones, and so we're always connected, and it's just I sit there and I listen to the guys mentor the new people that want to become firemen. You're like, the whole, why do you want to be a fireman? And you got to, do the whole baseball diamond. And they tell them how to say all the right stuff.
Right.
And I let them talk to them for about an hour, and then I give them the Uncle Mike speech. Like, hey man, why do you want this job? For real? Because I'm going to tell you right now, it's a job of inconvenience. You're going to miss some sleep. You're going to miss some meals. You're going to miss some workouts. I know you see the recliners. I know you see the stainless steel kitchen. I know you see the benefits and the cool schedule and everything. But you are going to do some tough things. You're going to kneel down in some liquids and some materials, and people are going to question what you're doing and why you're doing it. And and we do more on our days off than our days on. Like, this is. You were like, so you talk about, like the slippery slope with Bruno and the uniform thing. One of the slippery slopes for me is telling guys they won the lottery when they get hired.
Yeah.
Well, I got 260 people that if they won the lottery tonight, they ain't showing up. It's a job. It's a career. Like, it's work.
It's work.
You got to show up and do the work.
Right.
You're going to get dirty. Like, you're going to go into an apartment where people smoke cigarettes. And then you're going to have to go, and you're going to smell it. You're going to go into some places where people just live differently. And
you know what? The caveat to that lottery statement is you get the lottery winnings after the work.
Yeah.
At the end of your career. So you have stepped into into an opportunity that affords you a lottery winnings-ish at the end. There's a lot of other prizes that come with that as well.
Yeah.
And
you can ruin that.
100%.
You can flush that down the drain.
Right, but the problem is that people hear that as a guarantee.
Yeah.
You won something, therefore it is yours. No, you have to earn it every day.
Yeah.
And by running calls, by training, by putting in work. So I think it's a funny expression because it implies down the road. Yeah. But we say, but you got it today.
Yeah.
But the reality is that you still have to earn it every day, and that's a very different statement.
I don't know if you follow Simon Sinek
at all. I love that guy.
Yeah,
love that
he's
guy.
legit, and he talks about the infinite versus finite.
Yes.
And dude, that's eye opening, man. If anyone listening out there, YouTube Simon Sinek, the finite, the infinite, and the fire department's a long game. It's a long game. Right. And when you got a year or two on, you're not thinking about retirement. You're not thinking about your health. You're not thinking about any of this stuff. And then the next thing you know, you're 10 years in, and you're still, barely contributing to your deferred comp. You got a shiny big truck, and
you got bills to pay. You can't put 10% in the bank.
No, dude. But that is one thing I'll say about the people that we're hiring nowadays is their lifestyle is completely different. Their values, it's different, and it's a hard pill for some of our senior members to swallow. Mm-hmm. But if you have kids and like, hey man, the old guys when I got hired thought I was different and my priorities were wrong, and now it's just that's society.
Yeah. 100%. So let me ask you some rapid fire questions.
Yeah, boy.
1, 2-word answers, short statement, whatever. Okay. What's one piece of great advice you've been given?
Oh, man. Be humble. Yeah, be humble, man.
I love it. Okay. What is your favorite MRE?
Spaghetti meatballs, number 5.
Oh.
Yeah.
Right on.
Do they still make it? I don't even know.
I don't know. It's the old MREs, bro.
Yeah. Old school Marine.
So the converse, what is the worst piece of advice you hear people give? You won the lottery. You already said it.
That is a pretty bad piece of advice.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd call that advice, but I think everybody's different in the fire service, and if you want to ride backwards for 30 years, ride backwards for 30 years. If you want to promote, man. Take advantage of every opportunity you can. The only way you're going to get experience driving a fire truck is by driving a fire truck. The only way you're going to get experience by being a captain is by being in that front right seat. And if that's what you want to do, do it. Find a mentor, find a person.
So what was the bad advice?
Sometimes people tell you to be patient, take your time, enjoy it. Like, what I'm saying? Like, hey, you only got 5 years on, what's the rush? Well, I that's one of the things I learned in the Marine Corps is just like, I try to
volunteer.
Yeah.
Step up.
I thought just hanging out with the guys and being cool was the way. And I missed a lot of opportunities. And so when I became a fireman, I said, I'm going to take advantage of every single opportunity that I can. And so when that big call kicks out, I'm on it. I'm going to it. I want to try everything I can. Special operate, hazmat, TRT, Battalion Chief, GAP, training, RTO. All that stuff. So take advantage of opportunities. There really hasn't been any bad advice in the fire service for me. I've just been surrounding myself with good people and good mentors, and
Well, then let me ask you this last question: what does it mean to you to be fireground fit? So
for me, being fireground fit, You can bench press 315. You can run an Ironman. You can do CrossFit. You can flip tires. But turnouts are a game changer. They are the equalizer. And so if you're not getting in your gear and breathing down a bottle and experiencing that's the game changer. And so put your gear on and do work in your gear. Whether it's just, even if you're on the treadmill in your gear or whatever it is, like Fireground Fit is being fast, being effective, but doing it in your turnout gear, because we don't go to fires in PTs, in tennis shoes. The gear is a game changer, and it's heavy, it's hot. I had a D1 wrestler as one of my recruits, and the turnout gear is the great equalizer. So for me, being Fireground Fit is being able to work in that gear, and I've seen a lot of people do it and overcome those challenges, whether they're big, small, marathon runners, CrossFitters, like as long as you're doing something, the weightlifters hate the CrossFitters, the CrossFitters hate it's just this, it's like, dude, as long as you're doing something, man. And by no means am I like this poster boy for physical fitness or anything like that, but I try to stay engaged, and I love doing towers and being with the guys and the recruits, and just, being a fireman.
Love it. Well, Mike, thank you, brother, for sitting down and rapping with us for a while.
My pleasure, brother.
Appreciate it.
No, dude, you are seriously hands down one of my biggest mentors, and you're like one of the biggest leaders here in the fire service in the Valley, and it was an honor to sit down with you. And I know you got some good guests coming up on your show.
This is a showstopper right here.
Oh, dude, whatever.
Mike, appreciate you, brother, and I appreciate your kind words, man.
Yeah,
Thank
no problem,
so
man.
much.
Love you, buddy.
Hey, that's all we got for today, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Mike, thank you so much for sharing your time with us and sharing some of your talents, your thoughts, your opinions. If you are enjoying the Fireground Fitness Podcast, get on over to whatever platform you enjoy best. Subscribe, and these episodes will drop in the middle of the night when you least expect it. Also, get on over to Apple Podcasts, rate and review the podcast. That pushes our numbers, gives us more feedback, and pushes this into other people's ears. So, also feel free to reach out, raingray@firegroundfitness.com, if you have any thoughts, opinions, words of wit, or care to share an anecdote, or you have an idea for a guest on the show. Do not hesitate to holler at me and let me know. In the meantime, take the lessons you've gleaned here today, find a way to impart them into your life, and go on out there and get some.